Hey, welcome back, guys. All right, so let's talk about clearing messages, how to get clear messages. So we get messages all the time. So sometimes you may not understand the message or it's just not clear. So how does that happen and why does that happen and what's something you can do to fix it? So here's a quick tutorial on showing you how to get clearer messages. All right, so let's pretend this is the message. Okay, so we're gonna set that right here. Okay, so that's the message that's trying to get to us. Somebody send us a message. It can be an ancestor, an elemental, whatever. Okay, so the message comes. But then each one of these, anything, represents an ingredient, represents a food, okay? Just represents anything that we ingest. Okay, so we have all these different things combining, right? Now just pretend these are all messages. Okay, so these are all conversations as well, right? So each one of these objects represents a conversation. Okay, and these conversations are communicated through the food. Okay, so the food that we eat is energy, and they're also forms of information. Forms of information. Okay, so this right here is the conversation that's going on. This is a conversation that's going on. This is a conversation that's going on. Okay, so let's just say this was like 10 to 15 different conversations going on, right? So it's going to be a little bit harder for you to get your message or hear your message. Now, this conversation could be, this conversation is talking to this one, okay? These two right here, they may be singing. These two might be arguing, but they're just loud. But your message is right here, but it's gonna come through very subtle. So it's gonna be hard for you to hear the message, okay? Or even decode the message. This one right here, you got this message. So just a bunch of random messages, a bunch of random conversations, okay? So this takes place where? Inside of your body. This takes place in your microbiome. Okay? So when you are dealing with the messages, you have a large amount of conversations that are going on at the same time. So what do you have to do to be able to get the message or get a clearer message? You have to basically be able to take one type of food that you eat and eat it one at a time. Okay, when you combine a bunch of different foods and you put them together and you eat them at the same time, it makes it harder for you to get clearer messages. Okay, so you had all these different conversations going on at the same time inside your microbiome, which is basically your gut. Okay, these messages, they're coming from your gut. Okay, so that gut, the information that's inside it, or you have so many different types of conversations that are going on. Now, once you are able to do that, you'll be able to see and hear and sense and feel the message. Okay, so what you practice doing is not combining large amounts of foods together all at once, okay, and then eating them, and then combining more different types of foods together and eating them, and more different types of, and putting them all together. You need to separate those food groups and eat them one at a time because we're dealing with kingdoms here. In this case, we're dealing with the plant kingdom. So just like the animal kingdom, if you put all animals together, it's not going to be harmonious. The same thing works for the plant kingdom. All animals don't get along at the same time, and all plants don't get along at the same time. So if you put certain plants together, they're going to want to compete with each other. And this is the conversation they're going to have inside your gut. Now, this was only 10 to 15 objects, but when we're talking about your gut, we're talking about billions, billions of conversations that are going on inside of your gut. So what you want to do is, like I said, you want to separate these food groups, especially as you get later into the day. So as you get done with your day, you should have broken down all these different foods that you've combined. You should have already broken those down, okay? If you go into your rest state and you, right before you go to sleep, and you eat a whole bunch of different types of ingredients, a whole bunch of different types of foods, when you get that message in your astrals or whatever, it's going to be hard for you to understand what that message was. Okay, so what you want to do, like I said, throughout the day, practice separating those foods. Find out which foods work well together, because not all of them are supposed to be combined when you put them inside your gut. Okay, so separate them. And then what you do is the last hour before you go to sleep, okay, you want to basically enhance this message. You want to enhance this message to hear it that is clearer, whatever that message is. So how do you enhance this message? How do you feed the message? this message, what you want to feed it is you want to feed it probiotics. Okay, so make sure whatever, like say if you're eating 3 meals a day, okay, make sure your last meal is not after 6 o'clock. Okay, let's say you go to sleep at 10, right? Don't eat any large meals after 10 o'clock. And then an hour before you go to bed, consume probiotics and fiber. Okay, so probiotics, what that's going to do is that's going to bring in the other conversations, that's going to enhance the message. The probiotics is going to bring that in. And then the fiber is going to feed the message. The fiber is what's going to feed the message, and then the probiotics is what's going to enhance it so it can speak louder. Okay, so before you go into your rest state, make sure that you consume probiotics. Okay, and then make sure also that you have some form of fiber. Okay, have the fiber so that way the message can come through even louder and clearer. Now, when you incorporate this practice with the other video where we talked about, okay, covering up your eyes, you know what I mean, and basically getting that deep rest, so that way you can, the meditation, so basically get into that sacred space, okay, you will have no problem decoding your messages and hearing your messages clearer. Okay, so once again, separate your food groups throughout the day. Okay, if you mix them all together, it's gonna be hard. Okay, because it's information. So you got this conversation over here, this conversation, they're all speaking really, really loud. They're speaking really, really loud and covering up the message. They're covering up the message. So you separate those food groups. You separate them. Okay, you separate them. The message be right there. You feed, at the end of the day, you feed the message. You feed it probiotics and fiber. And that's going to enhance the message. So you have no problem hearing what the message is. And then if you go into that sacred space, just like in the meditation video, you're good. Okay? Ashe.